Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel, and if you are brand new here, welcome. I'm Bonnie, Old Soul Mermaid, and today I'm going to take a little break from looking at my deck collection videos to do a side-by-side of the newly released Field Tarot Mass Market Edition by U.S.Games. Now, this deck originally was an indie deck by Hannah Elizabeth Fofana. I believe the indie deck, as far as I know, this version is no longer available. I do have a full unboxing of just this deck on my channel, but you have to go a little bit farther back. I'll try to find it and link it in the description below. So I just got this the later part of the day yesterday. So I just took the plastic off the top. As you can see, the boxes are quite a bit different. Maybe we should look at that first. Do you see how chunkier the indie box is compared to the mass market? And that's the backs, or those are the backs, I should say. Just kind of go around the nice collaging. This is a collage deck. It's a little bit more plain in the indie version, but they're both beautiful boxes and same kind of materials in the box. So let's see what the difference is in the cards and in the book. So right off the bat, let's see. Plain box, U.S.Games, nice little you know, starry scene in the indie box. The books are, the U.S.Games one seems a little chunkier, so we'll look at those in a minute. We'll compare the books in a minute. So there are the cards. And we'll take the deck out. Take the plastic off. All right, so I've taken the plastic off of the new mass market deck. I'm taking a look, and you can see there's a difference in the backs. Now, this back is reminiscent of the top and of the box in the indie version, if you can see. It's also in the bottom, so the backs are very similar to what's inside the indie box. Cardstock. This is a nice U.S.Games cardstock. It actually feels a lot like maybe the Lightseers Tarot by the mass market version by Hay House. Feels like that. This is a little bit more rose petally with the indie version, but this mass market is really nice cardstock. It's ever so slight, and I don't know if you can see it, but there is the U.S.Games logo here, but it's so well camouflaged in the stars. All right, so we're gonna flip these over and see what the difference is. So the cardstock is a little bit different, a little bit more luxurious with the indie version, and you can see it's a thicker cardstock, I think, with the indie version, and you can tell, because ever so slightly you can tell the indie version in here is a chunkier deck. That's why the box is also thicker, taller. So there is a difference in the cardstock, but this mass market cardstock is not bad. It's U.S.Games cardstock. So it looks like they really did not change anything. How about the size? Okay, I would say the U.S.Games is just a fraction, maybe an eighth of an inch taller than the indie. That's interesting. So I'm bringing this up close. I would say that there's a little bit more saturation in the indie version as far as color. With the greens and the background, this is a little bit more muted, but it's not bad. All right. So I'm going to get down, let's see if I can get down closer. So again, we have indie version, we have the mass market version, U.S.Games version. So right off the bat, again, all I'm noticing is the color saturation. They've kept the images the same. So see how deeper that blue is? This so far has a more muted quality to it. Pretty similar here for the High Priestess. Again, a little more color saturation here, and you can notice it in her dress. But they've kept the images, you know, so far exactly the same. If you're noticing any difference while I'm flipping through, let me know any differences you see. I can easily miss some. Very, very similar. The difference in the color is almost imperceptible, I would say. This one is pretty much spot on. The font is pretty much the same. With the lettering, I'd say this one is a little lighter, more delicate. This is a slight bit more bold in the indie version. The Chariot. Yeah, like I can see the yellows and the pinks more on this side than I can here. So it's just toned down just ever so slightly. But it's more noticeable in some cards than in others. And right now I'm just looking to see if there's differences in the cards, if they've changed any of the cards in this deck. Perspective in this deck is in lieu of the Hanged Man. This is a great death card. So digital collage, great collage in this deck. Yeah, you can see the blue is a little bit more vibrant in the green and blue here. But the image is the same. And this is the cover of the indie box. Yeah, very, very similar. For some reason, though, this card seems bigger, but it is a little bit shorter. If I'm imagining, yeah, then the indie version is a little bit shorter than the mass market. I don't know. It's like a mind trick, but I think these cards seem larger. I don't know why. The indie, even though they're not. Moon, the lovely moon. Very, the color difference, very imperceptible. And like I said, it's noticeable in some cards more than others. Difference in the font, bolder here, a little more delicate here, but basically the same. This deck does have keywords, which a lot of people, you know, it's a turnoff if it doesn't jive with your understanding or the way you read certain cards. Most people would prefer no keywords in their tarot. It doesn't bother me too much, especially since it is, you know, it's at the bottom, it's delicate. But keywords can be very good if you are just learning the tarot and you still need that little bit of help. This is a pippish deck. Some of the pips are more illustrated than others. And some are just straight on pips. This is traditional. changes at all so far. This is largely a female-centric deck. Orlando Bloom. This is the Orlando Bloom card, right? What was his character in, oh, those movies? I'm having a brain freeze right now. Two of Cups. Three of Cups, so there's a keyword, friendship. Yeah, do you see the blue right here is just a little darker than it is here, but see, the images are the same. I love this Six of Cups. And see, you've got more of a pip feel here, but they're beautifully, you know, illustrated. I love the collaging. Yeah, I think the pips, the cups, the suit of cups is very pippish. So instead of the page, you have princess in this deck. And the males, you get males for the prince or knight. Instead of knight, it's prince. And then you get the queen. Yeah. So I could be imagining it because the cards are about the same, but she just seems to pop more. Let me know what you think in the comments. And we also have males in the kings. So the knights and kings are males. So, yeah, I think if you missed out on this indie deck and you were wondering how this U.S. Games compares, it's exactly pretty much the same what you get on the cards. The card stock here, it's a little bit thicker, a little bit more luxurious, but some people don't like thicker card stock. The backs are different. A little bit more muted in some cards. It's more noticeable, but you know, if you don't have two to compare, I mean, you wouldn't know the difference. So far, it looks like they've kept everything the same. See, the color difference, I don't really see too much in this between the two of these. So it is more obvious in some than others. See, the darker cards, you can't really tell the difference. So yeah, I think U.S. Games has done a really, really good job in transitioning this indie deck into a mass market deck. They've kept pretty much all the elements. We'll see as far as the information in the guidebook. I think this deck, mass market, ran $22. And the indie deck, oh, so long ago, I think it was like $45, $48 plus shipping. So let me know if you had this on your wish list, or did you get it in the mail? Did you pre-order it from Amazon? And let me think what your opinion is on the keywords. Would that be a turnoff for you? The discs are more pippish in this deck too. I think the wands you have are a little bit more illustrated. But yeah, they did a bang-up job. Just, they kept everything the same, and we just have a few cards left. Yeah, you really don't have to be upset if you missed out on the indie version, because U.S. Games has done a wonderful job. Yeah, a little bit more color saturation, but yeah. And see here, it's not as visible. I'm trying to see if the borders are wider. They look to be exactly the same. Let me know what you think. Now, if you saw any differences, I'd love to hear what you picked out on which cards. Now, I'm going to zoom this up just ever so slightly. It's oh, it shuffles really well. I have small hands, so I usually shuffle from the sides because I have a hard time getting my hands, even with pretty much regular, I have trouble shuffling that way. So these are pretty much standard tarot size, I would say, for the most part. Yeah, if you have larger hands and you're a riffle shuffler, you won't have any trouble with this deck. Now, quickly, let's see if there's any difference in the book. All right, so we've got illustration here. We've just got color here. There is, in the mass market for a book, 93 pages of content. In the indie, 93 pages of content. Now, I will notice on the back, there is an about the author. I can't remember if there's one in this one. Let's see, this is the indie book. So you have an introduction, reading tarot, and then you go right into the cards. Can't remember, there was a single card spread, a 3-card spread, Celtic Cross, the field spread. So this is for the deck. And then you go right into, yeah. So nothing about the author. So let's look here. So you have the introduction, reading the tarot. Yep. Everything looks to be the same. There's no pictures of the card in this little white book, So you've got the same spreads. Paper is pretty similar. But you do, yeah, you get the exact same content. So it's the exact same. But you get a little bit about the author in the mass market version, and I'm going to read it. Hannah Elizabeth Fofana created the Field Tarot as a means to connect her lifelong love for tarot with her background in graphic design and illustration. That's so evident in this deck. She has spent her career moving between agency, corporate, and freelance design settings, but has always strived to make time for creative projects on the side. Many elements and cards used throughout the deck were influenced by her life, events, family, and friends, most notably her journey to becoming a new mother. So that's something that's missing in the indie guidebook. Similar feeling. This has a little bit more of a rose petal feeling, but it's exact same content. So with the two decks, you got, indie, a little bit more luxurious cardstock here, thicker cardstock, but this isn't horribly thick. You've got nice U.S.Games cardstock here, and I would say it's very similar to the mass market versions of the Lightseers, Muse Tarot. I'm thinking I just handled the Spirit Song, Paulina Cassidy's deck. It's similar to that. So it's a matte cardstock, not waxy at all. It's just a nice matte cardstock. As far as it looks like the cutting is very well done. And so again, the difference is also they went a little more delicate here with the font, but they kept everything the same. The size of the borders look pretty much the same. So, you know what? I think that borders might be a tiny bit bigger in the mass market. Yeah, tiny bit imperceptible in the mass market version. More color saturation here. It's more evident in the light colored cards, but in the dark colored cards, it's hardly noticeable. So that is my side-by-side with the new mass market edition of the Field Tarot and the indie version, which has been out for a year or two. I don't believe this is available any longer. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you have the indie version? Do you feel the need to have the mass market? And now that you have, if you missed out on the indie version, are you going to be getting the mass market version? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Well, that is it. Until next time, I will see you real soon. Bye for now.